Good morning. Welcome to West End. We're glad to have you with us today. For those of you joining us online, welcome to our church online. Thank you to the church for allowing me a week off to get rested and rejuvenated. Thank you to Claude and Bill and the crew, and I don't know who all was involved. But I heard just a minute ago they showed up and showed out last week. I don't know exactly what that means, but if you were here, I bet you do. So let's see what we can do today. Stand to your feet. Let's worship together.
My life. meet today in the library. There's a Jerusalem Project meeting in the kitchen immediately following church. There's also a new form that you have to fill out for the coronavirus. Finance Committee will not meet till July 12th. Jerusalem Project. We also need shirt sizes for all the children. And Deborah wants to thank everyone who participated in the blood drive. They normally only have about 25, but this time they had 56. So they doubled what they normally have. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So other than that, just remember to continue to pray for the family of Osmond Lemons, who passed away last week. Long-time member and friend. As soon as I got that call, all I could think about was him passing by and poking me in the gut saying, "You get as fat as your daddy." That's just something he said to me, and that was our little running joke. But he'll be missed. He was a good guy. So let's pray together. Lord, thank you for gathering this group of believers here today in your house to worship and praise you, learn your word, be fed by it. Lord, we're thankful for those who are joining us online. Lord, we want to continue to pray for our country. We're still in a difficult time with lots of different things going on. Lord, pray for our state and county, this coronavirus, Lord, but you already know when all this is going to end. We don't know, we don't understand, but you do. Lord, just give us strength and give us comfort. Be with us as we go throughout our days. Be with our pastor as he delivers the message this morning. Let us take it and apply it in our daily lives and use it to build your kingdom. Amen. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Patrick. It reminded me of a story from Mr. Lemons. When I first came here, he would come by and sit in my office and talk to me for hours. But the very first time he came, it was middle of the summer, and it was a random Tuesday, and he came in, and I had on khakis like I have on now and a polo shirt. That's kind of dressy for us during the week. He came in and he said, "Oh, it must be casual day at the church." And I said, "I thought I was dressed pretty well, Brother Oswald." He had on a suit and tie, of course. I don't know where he was going. So anyway, don't forget our baby bottles down here for Options Medical. The idea is for you to collect your spare change, put it in there. Now, they'll take a check. They will take a check. So if you don't have a lot of spare change, put that in there. That's to support our Crisis Pregnancy Center here in Gaffney. Normally, it happens from Mother's Day to Father's Day. This year, of course, none of us were here on Mother's Day except Marshall and I. So if you take one of those, fill it up, bring it back by the last Sunday in July, and we'll make sure that they get it back. Okay? All right, stand to your feet. We're going to take up our offering. Todd is milling about the center aisle, awaiting your envelope. So get that to him as quick as you can, and we'll continue on with our worship. Stand to your feet, stretch out a little bit. Wave at your neighbor. There I was on death row, guilty in the first degree, Son of God hanging on a hill. Hell was my destiny. The crowd was shouting, crucified. Could have come from these lips of mine. The dirty shame was killing me. It would take a miracle to wash me clean. Then I read the red letters, and the ground began to shake. The prison walls started falling, and I became a free man that day. Felt like lightning in my veins. My dead heart began to beat. Breath of God filled my lungs, and the Holy Ghost awakened me. Yeah, the Holy Ghost awakened me when I read the red letters, and the ground began to shake. The prison walls started falling, and I became a free man that day. For God so loved the whole wide world, sent His only Son to die for me. Arms spread wide for the whole wide world. His arms spread wide where mine should be. Jesus changed my destiny. Thank you, God, for red letters when the ground began to shake. The prison walls started falling, and I became a free man that day. The prison walls started falling, and I am a free man today. Great job. You may be seated.
Well, good morning, church. Good morning. Good morning to you that are gathered here. Good morning to you that are watching from home or from vacation or wherever you might be today. We're glad that you are with us today and joining in this service with us. I've got good news for y'all. This is my last sermon from verse 14. We are moving on. Got
All the way to 15.
all the way. We're going all in. We're diving into 15 now. Well, you know, sometimes you think you've exhausted a verse, but that's never really true of me. But But sometimes what we really haven't exhausted is how we apply the verse. We've applied it in this direction. We haven't applied it in this other direction. Kind of where we are today. I'm going to give you, for you that are new here today, I'm going to give you a little review of the last 3 sermons on verse 14. So you'll be caught up with where we are today. Let me read the verse. Okay, let me read the text. That'll help. It's Romans 8:14. It says, "For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God." That means are now. Not when you die. We are now the sons of God. So here's kind of how we've approached this and what we've talked about. First, basically, we talked about the fact that all are not sons of God. Some people talk about like, we're all the children of God. No, we're not. We become children of God by new birth, and we become children of God by adoption. He adopts us into His family. That's only true of those who have accepted Christ. That's just maybe this terminology, but understand how the Bible teaches this. We talked about in the second week, we looked at the characteristics of sonship, that sons take on the characteristics of their father. And so when we become the sons of God, we begin to take on the characteristics of God. Now listen, this one thing just blows away the idea that you can get saved but nothing happens. If nothing happens, who's to blame, you know? When we're really saved, we become Christ-like, don't we? Things change in us. God's working. He's developing us. So, there are similarities. We talked about how fathers make plans for their children. Well, God's making massive plans for us. He's been making plans for us from eternity past. I love we talk about this. The children have access to their father. We have access. There is an open door policy. We talk about how some people are really important, and maybe they tell other people, I don't want to be bothered. But if they get a little knock and it's their child, they find time. We talk about how you got all these pictures from the Kennedy era. They're iconic pictures of little John Kennedy when he was 3 or 4 years old. He's in the Oval Office with the president. There's other men. He's crawling around under the desk. He had access. His daddy was president. And so we have access to the Father. Third week we saw how the Spirit leads last week. We talked a lot about that. He doesn't drag us. He doesn't push us. He leads us, and leads us from inside. He's in us. He can direct us. He can give us impulses, and he can give us ideas. He can do all. But the main thing we talked about was this. This is not something that happens once in a while. This is the constant directing of the Spirit who's in us, directing our lives. It's an ongoing process. It's part of sanctification. Part of it is corrective. If we're in the ditch, He's getting us out of the ditch and getting us back on track and all these sorts of things. So the Spirit is working in all these kinds of things. We talked about He will not lead us contrary to Scripture. You hear somebody say, well, God's told me this, but it's contrary to Scripture. That wasn't God. We talked about, there are other spirits that can talk to you. And that's not the Spirit of God that tell you to do something that is contrary to the Word. We talked about the fact that He enlightens our minds to understand the Scripture. It gives us understanding. In the course of all this, I talked about I worry about people who may think they're saved, but they're not. Okay? Here's what I want to do today. I kind of want to flip that over, and I want to make some of this application for this. for people who are really saved, but they have doubts. They wrestle with doubts, but they're really saved. Okay? You may say, well, how can that be? Ask Don. I mean, ask a lot of people who've really been saved, and they were just dogged by doubts if they were really saved or not until they got to a place where they didn't have that anymore. There's lots of things can happen. When we're going through horrible times sometimes in life, listen, the devil knows when to pounce on us. Oh, and listen, when we're in a weakened state, he wants to jump on us and tell us that if you were really a Christian, God wouldn't let this happen to you, and this bad stuff wouldn't be happening to you, in all sorts of ways. He comes at us when we are weak. So, I want us to look at our text today with that in mind. Okay? For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. Now listen, think about that. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. That means, if we want to know that we're sons of God, we have to know what it means to be led by the Spirit. That's all there is here, okay? For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. So if I want to know that I'm a son of God, I have to know that I'm led by the Spirit. So that's why the title of the sermon today was Characteristics of a Spirit-Led Person. Now listen, if we're being led by the Spirit, we have a spiritual outlook on the world, on life. We look at the world with spiritual eyes. We have spiritual understanding. We know where we came from. We know where the world came from. We just know those are simple things, but we're not walking around through life not knowing anything about how we got here, where we're going. We know stuff because the Spirit in us lets us know things. So, we know where the world came from, and we know where it's going. We know when it ends, how it ends, okay? We know what's after that, and we know what all this means for the children of God. The Bible says this world is not forever. It's going to be burned up in fervent heat. There's going to be new heavens and a new earth. We have some understanding of these things. It's good for us. Okay? We're not walking around in the dark all the time. We have spiritual eyes. We see. We understand. We think a lot about where we're going. God gives us a whole lot of information about that, how we're going to go. So we have spiritual eyes. We look at the world differently. And listen, because we have spiritual eyes, we have understanding of things that the world does not understand. We talk a lot, I mentioned probably to somebody when I go out preaching through Genesis, but listen, I spent a lot of time when we were in Genesis 1, Genesis 2, talking about the fact that, listen, only believers know what everything is all about in the world. We know what now listen, we don't know every detail about everything, but we know what everything is really about going on in this world. We just know. I was reading last night. I get on these websites where you've got Christians who are scientists, real scientists, and like physicists and all this kind of stuff. And they're born again Christians, so they're trying to bring science and Christianity together and talk about all these things. But listen, science does not know where the universe came from. They talk about it, talk about where it could be, and maybe there's a multiverse now. Well, maybe there was another universe and it birthed this universe. Or where the other universe came. Doesn't really get us anywhere, okay? But listen, think about this. Where does the energy in the universe come from? What holds it up? This massive universe with 2 trillion billion galaxies, they tell us today. Each of them have 2 billion stars like our sun. What holds all that up? And it's moving outward all the time. What does that? What kind of power is that? Listen, Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning. That's where time came from. There wasn't always time. There's time now. God dwells in eternity. In the beginning, God created. That's energy. God is, listen, the Bible doesn't just say that He created it. It tells us He upholds it all, doesn't it? It's His energy. In the beginning, God created the heavens, that's space. He also, the Bible says, He created the earth and the sun and the moon and the stars. That's matter. That's all there is. We know stuff. And this is what the Bible says is part of the ending for us. 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 13. We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about those who are asleep, that you may not grieve as others do who have no hope. For since we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so, through Jesus, God will bring with Him those who have fallen asleep. What do you think that means? Well, there's a couple of ways to interpret this. I think it means God will bring with Him we who have died, our spirits are in heaven, with Jesus when He comes, because He's going to raise our bodies, and our bodies have to be reunited with our spirits, our soul, okay? Or some would just say that when He talks He'd bring with Him, it means He's going to bring the bodies out of the grave like Jesus rose out of the grave. But it's kind of the same thing, because our spiritual selves have to be reunited with our bodies for that resurrection to take place, okay? For this we declare to you by a word from the Lord, that we who are alive, that's us right now, who are left until the coming of the Lord will not precede those who have fallen asleep. In other words, we don't have a leg up on those who have died. For the Lord Himself will descend from heaven with a cry of command, a shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the sound of the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive, who are left, will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will always be with the Lord. Into this. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. Here's my question. Does that encourage you? Yes. Okay? I think that's a test. It's a test. If this encourages us, it means we have spiritual life and expectation. If it does not encourage us, you need a checkup. You think about this. Listen, not only do we have spiritual understanding, we have spiritual taste. We have a taste for spiritual things. You know, every time we have a big dinner here, I wish it would hurry up. We're overdue. When we're not controlled by a virus, we have really big dinners here. You know, and I have a taste, especially for desserts. We have the best desserts here you've ever had in your life. These people, they can make desserts. Now listen. We have a taste for food. Unless there's something wrong with us and we've lost our sense of taste. I know people. Sense of smell, it's sensitive. But listen. When we have spiritual life, we have a spiritual appetite. Now, to me, this is one of the huge tests of whether you are really a believer or not. If we're saved, we have spiritual life, and therefore we have spiritual appetite. So, we have an appetite for spiritual faith. The world has nothing to do with it. They don't know, they don't understand it. We have an appetite for the Word of God. We have an appetite for it. Listen, even people who can't read, there are people who can't read. Still, you think, no, we're not all these people. But even people who can't read, that are saved, they desire to hear it preached. They desire to hear it taught. They want to hear it explained because it feeds them, even though they can't read it. In one of my favorite movies, not the greatest movie ever made, but one of good ones, it's the Western called The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. And a whole lot of this movie is weird for a Western. It takes place in a cafe. Because one of the main characters, James Stewart, he's a young lawyer, he's coming by stage, he wants to set up a law practice, and the stage is robbed by an outlaw named Liberty Valance, and they beat him half to death, literally. And then they make everybody else leave on stage and throw him out there and leave him exposed. And so somebody finds him and they bring him to town, and they bring him to this cafe because there's people there, they're immigrants, and the guy that found him, which is John Wayne in this movie, wakes him up and says, hey, we got a guy here who's hurt. So that they take him in there. So he stays there for days and days recovering. And so while he's there, he starts helping them in the cafe, washing dishes. And so he's got his law books around, he's washing dishes. And so one day, he thinks he's found the law that he needs. This is a territory, not a state yet. He thinks he's found the law that the town marshal, which is Andy Devine, and he doesn't carry a gun, can arrest Liberty Valance. And so he's got the book and he's dripping water, and he's over the dish bench, he's got an apron on, and he hands the book to Allie, the daughter of this place called Peter's Place, and it's Peter and his wife and their daughter Hallie. So he says, hey, here, take this, Hallie. Read right here. You start reading right here. And he goes, well, what do you wait? Read. She said, I can't. He said, what do you mean you can't? She said, I can't read. You mean you can't read at all? Why? She said, well, I just never got to school. Well, she feels embarrassed now. The parents are looking it up and around. And so when she walks off, he says, Hallie, I could teach you. She says, why? What good has it done you standing here in an apron? Well, he gets his meal and he sits down, and she walks over to him. Well, she brings him to him, puts it on the table. And she said, Brent, could I learn to read all grown up and everything? He said, sure, I can teach you. It'll be easy. You can do it. And here are her words. You know, he says, I know the Bible from preacher talk, but it would be such a blessing if I could read it myself. Listen, that is spiritual appetite. It is spiritual desire. If we know Christ, we have that in us, don't we? You don't have to drive us, make us go to church. You don't have to drive us and make us pick up our Bibles and read, or to make us enjoy hearing the Word taught in our classes, in our small groups, these things. No, we have a spiritual appetite. We have a taste for the Word. We have a taste for prayer. All these things. Study. And this is one of the ways that we check ourselves. Because listen, the world has none of it. They have no spiritual taste. They have no capacity to taste spiritually because they don't have the Spirit. You have to have the Spirit to have a spiritual appetite. So the world doesn't have this. And so, it's stated pretty clearly. One place than one, but here, especially in 1 Corinthians 2:14, it says, the natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God. Why? They have no capacity. For they are folly to him. Why would anybody do this? This is so boring. Why would people gather for this? That's their attitude. Listen, and he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. And he has no spiritual capacity. Listen, for me, it would be like this. Let's say Michael's the next door neighbor. That'd be okay. He can fix stuff. So if I had Michael, let's say Michael was my neighbor, but in my story, he was born blind. So he has never been able to see anything. I don't know how they teach you at the. I never really thought about that until this week, and I thought about this and it was great. And I thought, how do they teach blind people to be aware of things if they've never seen anything? What are they teaching? So let's say that I've got a neighbor named Michael, and he's never seen. Well, seasons are changing, and I love to go to Asheville, and I'm thinking, I bet the leaves are turning up there. I bet it's gorgeous right now. Had a few seasons, and they didn't do so hot, but I think this year will be a bumper ride. So I go tell Mike, I go see Mike, I say, Michael, I'm going to drive up to Asheville, North Carolina. I would like you to go with me because the leaves are turning. And they are going to be beautiful. Now listen, Michael may come with me just to go for a ride. And have somebody to talk to. But when I get up and I say, oh, look at these over there. This is amazing. Look at that gold in there and the different shades. This is just beautiful. He don't see anything, does he? And listen, I even have a hard time trying to explain. If he asks, what was it? How do I explain this to him? How do I explain things you see to somebody who can't see? It'd be the same thing if Michael wasn't blind, but he's deaf. And from birth, he's never heard anything. Cochlear doesn't work, nothing works, so he's deaf. I get this great idea. Hey, there's a group I like that plays, going to come to a concert in Greenville. So I get Michael. I said, Michael, listen, we're going to go out. You can go with me. We're going to go over to the center, and we're going to hear this great group. And depending on what kind of band he is, maybe he feels vibration. I don't know, but he just doesn't have the capacity to hear. Listen, when we're spiritually dead, we don't have any spiritual capacity. We don't get it. So, we have to decide, do I have spiritual life or not? Do I have a capacity for spiritual things? Do I just come to church because I think I'm supposed to, or my family wants me to, or do I have spiritual life and I have my own desires? I'm not coming for some reason, I'm coming because of me, because I get fed when I come here. So, you have a taste for the spiritual. Here's the next thing. We love the fellowship with the people of God. About anything. Listen. If I'm going shopping at the Yellow Mall and I want somebody to go with me, I would love to have another brother and sister in Christ. Why? Because we have everything in common. Everything. We know Christ. We know where we're going. We know what's important. We know what our commission is. We know what the church is about. So we can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about these things every time we're together. We enjoy the fellowship of the saints. We like being here today. Nobody made us come. We're here because it blesses us and it helps us. We delight in their company. Listen, Remember how it was the first Sunday we came back here and we could meet for the first time? We were all saying, wow, it's just so great to see people, to see each other, but it's been awful. Sheltering in place and unable to have real fellowship together. And so but with believers, we have everything in common. We talk and we understand each other, and that makes it glorious. Listen. Let me read you something. This is 1 Corinthians 2. It's 2 verses up from what I read verse 14 a while ago. And we don't hardly read these, but we always read 14. But this is 12 and 13. Listen to this. This is what makes spiritual fellowship glorious. It says, verse 12, now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, that we might understand the things freely given us by God. Oh, what is that? We have spiritual understanding. It's given to us by God. Now watch this. And we impart this to who? Watch this. And we impart this in words not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Spirit. Listen, in interpreting spiritual truths to those who are spiritual. This means when we get together, because we are spiritual, we can impart spiritual truth to other people who are spiritual, and they get it. And it's good for them. This can be when it's taught or preached or whatever, but it can just be conversation when we share the thing that God has shown us in the Word of God. We share it with, guess what? They got spiritual life. They see it too. You read verse 13 again. And we impart this in words not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Spirit, interpreting spiritual truths to those who are spiritual. I like this translation. Sometimes people translate, they put a different word here because you almost have to apply, insert a word here. But the meaning is the same. And that's why we like to get together so much. I want to read one more. This is 1 John, verse 3, verse 14. Listen to this. And we know that we have passed out of death into life because we love the brothers, the brethren, the brothers and the sisters. Whoever does not love abides in death. Now listen, this is a pretty good indicator verse, isn't it? We know we have passed out of death into life because we love the brothers. We have this affinity with the people of God, and so we want to be with them. Now, let me kind of sum this up. Here's what believers are in this world. We are temporary pilgrims and foreigners here. This is not our home. This is our temporary place. If we have a spiritual mind, we have spiritual thinking. So because we're pilgrims and foreigners, we like to get together with people from our real home and talk about it. Because we can't talk to anybody else about it because they don't know anything about it. But because we're pilgrims, we get with other pilgrims and we talk about home, which is heaven for us. Listen, as a very small child in 1966, I went to Germany. I was so young, my mother had to sign a thing so I could go into service. And I went to Germany. a set time. We weren't moving there forever. We weren't trying to find a house to buy. None of that stuff. We are pilgrims, and so we're there with all these people. It's very enlightening because you're there with people from all over the country. You know? I lived a pretty rural life, and I had guys there from big cities and Cincinnati, places like that. We didn't talk a lot about Germany when we were together. We talked about home. Some of these guys are getting letters from their girlfriends, and they can't wait for the day they get on the plane and they go home. And some of them are married. Some of them had hard times. I remember one of them, a very young guy, he hadn't been married very long, and he's in Germany. He finds out his wife is with somebody else. And I remember walking in the barracks and crying. And he tried to get a leave, and he couldn't get it. And we were afraid he was going to do something really stupid. Okay? So you have all these things going on. But listen, mainly we talked about home and what was happening at home. Listen, what was going on in America in 66 and 67? 68?
There's a lot of turmoil.
Oh, yeah. We had the protest against the Vietnam War. We had the civil rights movement going on big time, and so we had all these marches, and sometimes we had riots. Some of it is reminiscent of today, this stuff that's going on. So we talked about that. Listen, and we were from all over the country. Some of this stuff we looked at in different viewpoints. That was good for us, you know. But we spent our time, and we talked about what's going on at home. I mean, listen, if we had a record player or anything that would play music, we weren't playing German music. We weren't playing the polka. We were playing the music they were playing at home in 66 and 67. And you may not know this, but the greatest album ever produced came out in May of 1967. And we don't know, I don't know, there was a guy in our barracks, he got it. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band. And we would all go back in there and we would listen. That thing has sold between 30 and 40 million. It's still selling. Billboard in 2003 christened it the greatest album ever done. Any genre of music. It was so different. Wasn't like anything. We were listening to a song with Alex, and I would say, how does anybody sit down and write this? You know? Just, I saw a film today, oh boy. The English Army had just won the war. You see, you're singing, you know. A crowd of people turned away. But I just had to look, having read the book. But listen, so we got this album, and so we got this little room we go to. We set it up, and we go back in there, and we're listening to the same things that our friends at home are listening to. Now listen. This is what it is to be a Christian. We want to talk to our brothers and sisters here who know about our real home. We know people already there. We may even know people in common that are there. Huh? Oscar Lemons is there today. Well, there we could go. He's there today. For you that were there, didn't Paul Cobb do a great job speaking? It was awesome. Listen, so we know people that are there, and so we can talk about heaven, and we can talk about people that are there because we're pilgrims here. We're not here forever. We're here for a short time. Here's what. Listen. Understanding these things should make it easy for us when the world goes into chaos and turmoil. We go through financial panics and the banks are crashing, that kind of stuff. We go through wars. We go through upheavals in our society. It gives us understanding. Where does evil come from? We know where evil comes from. You know? We've had people show up at some of the protests. They were doing what they felt was right to do. They did it lawfully, they did it peacefully. But other people came there just to get the chance to throw rocks and burn something down. They weren't even a part of the group. They weren't from that town. They come in there to cause chaos. Where does the evil come from? We know where evil comes from. And guess what? We know where evil's going to. It's going into the pit. It's going into the lake of fire. That's where it's going. We understand. But listen, because we understand these spiritual things, it should have a calming effect on us when our world goes into turmoil in so many ways. God created the world, and He's in charge of everything. He has a plan. There's a day when it all ends. There's a day when He brings all His children to Himself, and it's over. So we know that. So we don't have to hunker down and think all is lost, because it's not. Let me read this one verse, and we'll close this out. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16. So we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. Now some of us relate to that really, really well. We know our bodies are changing in ways, and we feel like kind of wasting away. Our inner self is being renewed day by day. Listen, we can grow stronger and stronger spiritually while we grow weaker and weaker physically. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. Listen, we think we have an inkling of what God has prepared for us, but we can't get there from here. As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient. They're passing. They're temporary. But the things that are unseen are eternal. So listen, it's important that we know for ourselves that we have spiritual life. That we have spiritual vision. We see, we understand. We have a spiritual appetite. We're not like those who are dead, who have no comprehension. We do. We read the Word, and God speaks to our hearts from it. He gives us direction from it. Now listen, this is one of those things where we can talk with you, and gladly will. We talk with Donna when she's going through her time, but no assurance. But you have to do all this on your own. You have to check yourself against the Word of God and say, what's really true of me? What is really true of me? Let's pray. Father, we are so thankful that we know you. We thank you for the untold blessing that you bestow on us in life. We thank you for the blessing of having assurance, knowing for sure that we know you, that we're going to meet you when you come to us. And Father, we pray especially for those today who maybe are saved, but they're doubting. They're struggling. I just pray that you will show them by your word, they're really believers, that these things would not be true of them. They wouldn't have these desires. They wouldn't have this understanding unless they were your children. We pray you bless us into their lives today. We pray it in Jesus' name.